There we go. So welcome to Principles of Influence. That's what we're talking about today. It's 45 minutes. It's a really spot going like really straight to the subject. And if there are any questions along the way, please do say, open up your mouth. Since we're in a small circle here, I am recording. So Will, I know you have to leave at some point. Please do so. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. Just notice, okay, I need to go. Keep going. And you can watch the recording, the rest of it afterwards. So just to get things started, I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Here we go. You can see this. So it's Principles of Influence. I know I'm a really big fan of just keeping things simple and going straight to the point. And since we only have 45 minutes, here we go. So I like to start everything that I do with a breath because it is a powerful tool that we have and we carry it throughout our lives. So I'm just going to invite you to, you don't even have to close your eyes. You can just be there, but take a breath and imagine where it goes in your body and when it leaves your body, so that you can come into this space. We're focused, we're here, and we're present. And you can do that any time of the day, anywhere you go. And I guarantee that this is going to be a powerful thing to focus and be present and calm and clear in your mind. So use your breath. And today we're going to talk about first goal. What is the goal of being here? Who is this for? And an introduction of who I am. Just a little bit of a background of why am I here speaking to you and presenting about influence. We talk about what is influence, first of all, what types of influence are there, and then getting some clarity about that and awareness around influence. And we're going to talk about 3 skills. I didn't write the skills here on purpose because you'd already get a peek view, although I did mention all of that in my posts or in my the advertisement about this. And the next steps, what it could be, how can you use this information going forward, or is there anything else that you can do? If this is something that you wish to be developing for you in your life going further. So, goal for today is clarity and awareness about influence in leadership. And I'm, like I said, keep it simple. I'm going to keep this really simple. I don't have a lot of text here prepared. And since we are a small group of people, you are welcome to, at any point of time, present a question, your thoughts, your feedback, whatever it is that comes to your mind that you feel like this could be something I'd like to share. Look, we're here together and let's keep it that way and keep it really like relaxed and joyful and fun, because I'm all about that. Why are we here? We're here to have fun, right? Enjoy our lives, enjoy this moment together. So that's why we're here. And this is for people. Yes? Was there a question?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah. So it is just, this is for people who really want to get more awareness, increase their clarity about your influence in leadership. And leadership meaning whether you are in a position in your workplace as a leader, whether you are a leader in your community, you are a leader of your own life, first of all. That's what you are. And you do have influence around your own life to you. So in all different stages of life we are leaders, and this is about that. So this is for people who are ready, first of all, to, okay, I want to get better at this. I want to be more aware, like not break my brain because I think too much about influence. That's not the point, but just to be a little bit more aware. I want to grow, and therefore I want to help others grow through my growth. So if that's what you're here for, you're in a very, very good place right now, because that's what it's all about. So who am I? Paula's story. Look, I like playing with words and shapes. So these words here I picked because of the length of the word and how they fit into the story that I tell you today. Because just like you, like my story comes from I mean, I could tell you 1,000 different versions of my story, all coming from the same background, all coming from me. However, this is a collection of words that all tying together of places or things in my life that have influenced me. First is dance. I grew up dancing, so I was trained as a ballet dancer. And yeah, that's a huge influence on my life for every day, in good and bad. So yes, there have been a lot of good things that come from that, a lot of things that did not turn out so well for me. The next word is burnout. Yes, due to the whole background in dance, I wasn't very authentic, which is another word below there. I was not living my truth. I was not living like I was born to live. And it at some point turned out into a burnout, which turned into a depression. So all of these things coming from my background, not really living authentically. However, I'm here. I survived a depression, and I am using these as influencing my life right now. These are big things where I serve from, that are huge lessons of my life, responsibility being one of them that comes out of that. I am responsible for me, and actually only for me. Yeah, I have 2 kids. I am not responsible for their happiness in life. I can guide them and be by their side, but I am not responsible for them or anyone else other than me. So this is a big word for me. It changed my life. Authenticity, like I said, is something I really wasn't that aware of until I was able to break through the depression, and the word responsibility became an open door and window and gates to everything that's possible in this life and how I can serve other people. So me becoming a coach and being able to stand here is all due to the burnout, the dance, the depression, the finding the responsibility, and that has all influenced my life. And I'm all about clarity and joy. So everything that I do in my coaching career, in my business that I run, with my family here, everywhere, it's about finding enough clarity so that I can be a positive influence on others and myself. And joy is just a, sprinkle joy everywhere. I find moments of joy every day, and that even in days where I think like, oh my goodness, there was nothing there, but there's always something there. So yes, that's something very important to me. So that's kind of like my story a little bit. Yeah, coming from Finland, like I said earlier before we started the recording, living in Switzerland now. I came here 22 years ago thinking I'm going to stay here for 1 year. And here we go. That's how life sometimes goes. So I have a background in business and in art, so fine arts and dance and a lot of things like clowning, climbing, and mountaineering. And yes, mountaineering is what brought me to Switzerland. There you go. Now, there's a lot more to it, but if I was going to tell you everything is good, we're going to be here for 2 weeks, so we're not going to do that. So let's go. What is influence? Now, this is from a dictionary, the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something. And now, influence goes way beyond that most people think. It goes way beyond just those people that you come in contact with. Your influence goes beyond those people. It goes to the second level, the people that they come in contact with, even if you never come in contact with someone. And even the studies have shown that some types of influence go beyond that too. If we think of world leaders, for example, they have a huge influence on a lot of people that they have never come in contact with. Even if someone had never seen a picture of them, some people do. So you have even if you're not a world leader, you are a leader and you have influence over not just the person next to you, but the person next to them, and even the person next to that person. And the biggest influence you have over is about yourself. You influence you in so many ways. And to build this awareness and to becoming clear about what kind of influence you want to have, what kind of positive, because usually, and I hope that everyone here actually likes to have a positive influence on others, right? We're not here to negatively affect others. We want a positive, kind influence on others. Now, if that was true for every human, we probably wouldn't have wars and things like that. So it doesn't always work that way. However, that's what we are here for. I believe all of us here today are for the positive type. Now, there are many types of influence. There's many ways to influence other people. And these are just 5. There are more than 5. But I picked the 5 that kind of give a bit of a spectrum of where you come from. And we all use these types of influences in some places in our lives. And now that if you're more aware of these types of influence that you can have, you can actually choose the kind of influence that you pick for any given situation or the group of people. So inspirational influence, like the name says, it's inspirational. You inspire people by the way you are, the way you talk, the way you present yourself, the way you acknowledge others, to want to grow, to want to develop, to want to step out of their comfort zone, or to make the step that they were a little bit afraid of, a lot afraid of. So inspirational influence is very powerful. It is the most powerful type of these influences in a positive way. Personal appeals. And that's something where you seek for someone's special favor from them. So you appeal to someone else, someone's being, like you ask for a favor, and then maybe if you ask nicely, then you can kind of persuade them to do something or to be a certain way. Consultation is kind of like a collaboration. So you consult others and you discuss and you can have conversations, and that's how you can persuade, you can influence other people to join you, for example, for a common cause or for a project, for something else like that. Ingradiating. Now, this was a new word for me. I had to practice saying this because, yeah, English is not my first language, and I don't think I've ever said that word in my life. And so here, ingradiating. And that is kind of, I wrote down another version of this, which is sucking up. A more common use of this word, I would think, but it was just didn't look as pretty here. So I put the ingradiating here. Is to get others in a good mood, and then, really look at, kind of like, yeah, sucking up, so that they look at you favorably. They're like, oh yeah, sure, I'll go along, as long as you've done that. You offer them some little drink, or you offer them a meal, and you do this, and so you kind of, or you compliment them on a lot of things, and so you get them on your side a lot. We use that a lot, I believe. I mean, I'm sometimes have been, at least. I mean, I think I've used all of these, especially when it comes to kids. Sorry to admit, but that's just sometimes like the pressure here. Pressure is not a very positive way to influence people. However, it is very common. In the business world, extremely common. In the family world, extremely common. It's using demands, threats, intimidation. And so fear, pressure, not a very positive way to influence people, but it is very effective, as we all know. Media, a lot of media using that all the time. Parents, I mean, I am definitely guilty of this one, even though I'm trying to be the best parent. Sorry, kids, but yeah, that's how it's been. But I'm getting better. I'm being more aware, and the awareness here is everything. The more aware you are of all these different types of influence, the more you get to choose. The more you have the choice that, oh, okay, well, maybe this time, I was acting out of pressure, or I feel intimidated by someone. You also notice how other people influence you, because of course it goes all ways. So what kind of influence do you want to create? That is a question for you to consider, to ponder. Maybe not now. I mean, this is a big question. You're probably not going to come up with an answer right away this second. But this is a question I want to throw out there for the clarity and for the awareness. So this is a webinar, a presentation to get you thinking like, oh yeah, maybe you've never thought about it. Maybe you've thought about it a lot. So what is it? And what would it look like? If you were to work on what kind of influence, what would it look like? How would people react? Or if it's the other way around, you could turn it around on how do I want people to influence me? What kind of influence do I want to accept in my life? If you notice a lot of pressure in your life from other people, well, how can I maybe set boundaries of not accepting so much pressure? How can I invite more of the positive kind of influence to my life? What do I allow in? What do I not allow in? And this I found was a really good quote from Napoleon Hill. Think twice before you speak, because your words and influence will plant the seed of either success or failure in the mind of another. Very powerful statement. A word and influence. Because yes, words are powerful. One word at the right time can make someone, and at the wrong time can break someone, and same with influence. So the first skill, I promised that I would be talking about some skills. The first skill might seem a little unusual. It's like influence. Yeah, isn't it more about saying something, putting something out there, expressing things? Well, what if you expressed yourself by listening, by not saying anything? What if your influence was that of giving space to others as a leader? Being the one who creates the kind of environment where people feel really comfortable. People feel like they can live their truths. So a lot of people are, like I have been, not living their truths. What if your influence was the one of listening, where you were able to create that space where people feel so at ease that they can be themselves and they won't be judged? That's the one word. So listening is an absolute high skill for anyone, especially for leaders. In this world where everything happens so fast and there's so much noise, what if there was silence, enough silence that you could just listen? You allow someone else to go through their thoughts in their mind in peace. And not every second has to be filled with words and actions. So listening is very, very powerful skill to develop and to keep developing. You're never done with getting, you can always get better at listening. So a question to ponder and think about, it would be, what senses do you use for listening? Like other than your ears, which is quite obvious, right? Do you use your eyes? Do you use your sense of others' energy? Because you do sense others' energy, whether you believe it or not. It's where everything is energy. So, and we all know that from entering spaces. So what senses do you use to listen? Because there's more than one. So this is skill number one. If you have any questions, let me know.
All good so far, thank you.
Great.
Agreed.
Well, and skill number two is clear decision making. Now that might also be like kind of like the picture, like what? How is clear decision making a skill of influence? Well, clarity comes from within. So if you are clear in who you are, what you represent, and your decisions are based on this. So you make decisions, and usually the best decisions are made pretty fast. You have all the facts, you've gathered all the things that you need to know, and then you trust your inner wisdom, you make a decision, and you stand by it. You don't back down, you don't change. If you make a decision, especially as a leader, if you make a decision, you stand behind it. You are behind that one, even if it ended up being not the ideal decision. Sometimes that happens, right? We don't always make the right decisions. Even the big leaders don't always make the right decisions. So, but if you're able to stand behind that and it's a clear decision-making process, you're like, even if it went wrong, you can stand behind and say, look, yes, it went wrong. That is an enormous positive influence on everyone who's looking to you, and be like, oh, and everyone's learning from you, because yes, you are projecting this clarity, this feet on the ground decision making that is so clear, and that influence is enormously big. So clear decision making is absolutely essential. And besides, it makes you feel good. If you know who you are, if you know what you stand for, if you stand behind your own decisions, whether they're right or wrong, your life is more balanced. You don't get as stressed. You don't let little things just throw you off. It's much easier said than done often, but that's how it is. And clear communication, number 3. They're all just as important, kind of. They're not really in any kind of order. Clear communication. How many times? I mean, we all have this examples from our lives, whether it is in business or outside of business, where unclear communication has caused a lot of problems. And the influence in that sense is kind of like scattered. It's like, oh, what? There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of anger and negative emotions and escalation and things like that, just because something wasn't clearly communicated. I just did a workshop this week, 2 days ago, in an organization here where I live, where it was all about this. Clear communication. And keep it simple, like from throughout this whole webinar here, it's about being clear and simple. And the same with communication. Transparency creates trust. And that's a nice cycle. Transparency creates trust, and trust helps people to become more transparent, and we get more clear communication. So clear communication in terms of influence is a big deal. If you can communicate things clearly, you don't hide things, you're not being secretive, you don't think, oh, I shouldn't say this because they get advantage of that. And but you're being clear, open, honest, transparent, and even vulnerable. Vulnerability is always a part of clear communication, because yeah, we're all humans after all. That's what we are, and that's what it comes down to in this 3rd skill. So what I'd like to do, because I am really a hands-on person, and even though this is called a webinar, I could have called it a workshop. I would like for you, and Will, if you can stay here, I'm not sure, you're about to go, but I would invite you to write your commitment to increase your positive influence somewhere. Take a couple of minutes and just write things down. How are you committing? What are you committing to? What kind of time frame? Is it the next week, month, the next year, end of this year, in the next 10 years, whatever it is? Where are you going to commit yourself to? Thank you, Will. You just left. There we
Well,
go.
I mean, it's Andy here. Well, in terms of, I'm a freelance consultant, project and program manager, and in my day-to-day work, one has to. What you've covered on something in the subject material is I completely align to that.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of being positive influence, that's the only approach I can use. it's the approach one must use, because otherwise I'm going to fail at what I'm going to do,
Mm-hmm.
and only risk increase of failure and not being able to. It would be detrimental in terms of another client saying, "Okay, I need to talk to some other clients to get examples of your work, or just as a recommendation." So, in terms of being diplomatic, clear, concise, that is my mantra. If I mean, I have certainly, like everybody else, good days and bad days, but in general, I certainly align to the approach that you've clearly articulated.
Yeah. So what is something that you would like to, because I assume that you're here also to increase the kind of influence that you have in terms of, yes, also being able to help your clients, right?
Indeed.
In your consulting. So what is something like the three things? I'm going to go back a little bit because Carol just entered the space here. And these are the three things we were talking about. There was listening, clear decision-making, and clear communication. Now, these are just three examples. But out of these three, I think, is there something that you would think like, okay, well, this is something that I can concentrate on in order to serve my clients a little bit better, and so that they get better results. And yeah, of course, as they get better results, you get better results.
Well, I have to action these approaches, these disciplines and tools as routine. So I can't do one without the other. Certainly, they're all overlap. And if there's a deterioration or a gap between the other, I'll quickly realize that because of one's performance or down the line. So if there's a lacking somewhere or a mistake, then certainly I'm quickly made aware about it.
Yes. Exactly.
So if anything, the session today has reiterated, underlined that approach.
Exactly. So do you have any like specific questions about any of these three parts, the skills that where you could?
I think as a side comment, one has to read the audience. Having worked in multinational environments in the past, or been in meetings where there are individuals where English isn't their first language, the listening part becomes more prominent, or articulating the message, the clarity around what we're trying to do and achieve. So, yeah. or we have to, or which I've done in the Middle East, is have to repeat that process, and sometimes have someone who speaks both languages to perhaps use certain words in let's say in Arabic, for example, as to emphasize or enunciate, or emphasize.
Exactly.
Where perhaps sorry to talk over you, where perhaps English didn't have that emphasis.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that, because English is not my first language, and
right.
It has not been, well, I'm pretty good at English, but it hasn't been this way all my life.
Okay.
And I speak I coach in 3 languages. So
wow, impressive.
Yeah, that's a challenge. That's where this clear communication comes in, where you're trying to search for words. So Thank you so much for sharing. I think there's a lot here. Yeah, like you said, they're all interrelated. You cannot take one of these skills and take it apart and not affect the others.
Indeed.
They are all together because yes, it's about communication in the end. Influencing is about communication, a lot of it, because yeah, and not just words. Most of our communication, and that depends on what study you're looking at, but it's to 70 to 90% of our communication is nonverbal. It's not words.
Absolutely.
It's everything else. So the influence part is everything to do with your presence, how you project your voice, how you stand in a room, how you're looking at people, how you're listening to them. And just like it's like decision making, also part of it.
For sure, for sure. I mean, and that comes through practice, repetition. Some people are natural, have natural abilities, and some people need to take practice and repetition and to go through the cuts and bruises, should I say?
Oh yeah, exactly. Thank you so much for sharing. I want to hear from Carol. I know you just jumped in here and you didn't see the beginning part of the show. I'm calling this a show now.
And I had another thing, and yet I wanted to see this. So I thought, okay, I will jump in when I can.
Here. Yes, I mean, yeah, I'm recording it so you can always go and watch the beginning part as well. But do you have
good.
questions? You've seen these 3 slides here.
They are core. I find that these are things I continually hone in myself because there's always room to improve.
Mm-hmm.
The listening, I find I get so excited. My usually folk there isn't jumping in too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Finding that right time before someone gets in the little circular thing going further when, and this is maybe in one-on-one coaching, not in a group of people, but that right time to jump in and maybe summarize or other things. But listening to words, it's an art. The clear decision making, that one is always a challenge. By the way, I love your diagram because that's how my mind works.
Mm-hmm.
Even from moment to moment. What is the next thing I'll do? Well, which one of the 50 things floating around me is the one that will move me forward right now?
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect it's more about what we decide not to do that clarifies the direction that we go, and that underlying feeling of what's really important to me. Sometimes we can get stuck on work priorities, and yet maybe the most important thing is to pick up the phone and call somebody in my family right now.
Yeah, and this is something actually I touched upon earlier, is the clear decision making, that clarity that is, if you are a leader in a company, and that's the example I made, if you are clear on who you are, if you're clear on what you stand for, and hopefully those what you stand for go in alignment with what the company that you serve, or if it's your company, their values and what they stand for, then you're standing behind your decision, whether it's right or wrong. So you can still make a wrong decision. It doesn't mean that you're always right. I mean, none of us is always right. So I think hopefully, Andy, this is also helpful for you.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just this the decision making, that what Carol was just also sharing.
No, exactly. It was I was just processing that insight that she was sharing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And then the last one here being last but not least, right?
Clear communication.
Oh yeah.
This is an area I hone in on in my personal life all the time. I will be the one to notice when someone sends out something and it's like, okay, you express your feelings about things. Is there something you want me to do? Or is there a request that you haven't really said?
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I believe as a leader too, the more you can make that clear communication, the better.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is, and I do a little self-talk on this too, because sometimes I think I've made clear communication and I realize I left something out. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't ask the final question. I didn't ask for what I needed. I didn't ask, well, and this all comes back to questions in a circular, but I didn't ask in hearing somebody else whether they were complete.
Mm-hmm.
And here's where I'd add almost one more thing, which is a little line between the clear communication and the listening. And that little line is questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the unasked question that leaves people hanging, where they're not quite sure.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of sure, but they're not quite. And that circle back with a question to make sure that whoever you're speaking to has been clear. They have an idea what's expected of them, what to do next.
Mm-hmm.
That's an important piece to just kind of cap it off.
Exactly. That's a very key piece. And also, I'm thinking of you, Andy, in your role as a consultant, where this plays a role so much to get something moving, to get a project to the next stage, to get something cleared and working, or whatever that the project that you're consulting on.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's although my focus is within healthcare, I did find that someone anecdotally told me many years ago that projects are easy. It's just the people just get in the way. So I find that always makes me laugh. But on a serious note, it's reading the room, the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that only comes with practice, repetition. That's my first experience.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have a natural ability to read people, which it is a gift if someone, people have that.
Yeah.
And that way you can calibrate your interaction and measure that accordingly.
Exactly. And that, yeah, like we're going in circles here, because then it comes back to the listening part. Let's go. So yeah, it's really very, very important. And I'm so glad that you're here, Andy, sharing that, all that, because we all learn from each other. And I'm so glad actually that this is a small circle of people here. So we can do this.
No, good. I'm pleased. Thanks for holding the session today, because sometimes in your day-to-day work, there's always a risk of getting blinkered. You think, well, and just to get assurance, or at least what the real world is doing, it is reassuring.
That's the question. Whose real world is it?
Indeed.
Yeah. So I also asked Carol to just come up with a commitment to yourself in increasing positive influence. Now, this could also, in the beginning of this session, we actually talked about you influencing yourself, and also the idea that, yes, of course, you're being influenced by a lot of people too. And so this could also be about committing yourself to, okay, I will allow this kind of influence to come and this not, or there is a boundary in some certain kind of influence towards me. If you've noticed that, for example, if Andy, in your consulting, you meet a lot of people that are with different energies and intentions. And some of them might come across as more pushy or aggressive or something that just doesn't fit you as a person very well.
For
And
sure, for sure.
I mean, we all do meet these people. So then your commitment to yourself, a part of your commitment could be like, all right, well, I'm just gonna build I'm gonna protect my energy so that I can still do the best of my job, even though there's these two people in the room who are just gonna try to disturb it, not knowingly, or sometimes knowingly. But that could be a commitment too. So I would really encourage you to come up with that and say, all right, this is something I want to work with, because we're all here to grow. We grow every day, whether we want it or not, because we're not going backwards in time. And so why not invest time and energy into your growth so that it becomes the kind of growth that you want to have? And keep it simple. I like simplicity. So that's why it's added a couple of times during this whole presentation. We've come to the end actually, because it's 45 minutes and we are at 45 minutes just about. So we talked about today, clarity is key, awareness is key, about influence, and you could replace influence with almost anything else because it is key. We talked about the types of influence. We just touched on 5 types of influence. There's more. And those 3 skills to increase your influence. And then what's your commitment and next steps? So the next step could be, yeah, I'm going to work on this by myself. And the other next step could be that we talk about it. This is something I do. I talk about this. I help people. I listen. I'm honing on my skills to listen, and I'm pretty good at that and getting better too. So my listening skills are here for you. And I like to ask questions that challenge people. So if you're up for that, please let me know. And we can talk about it and have a little chat or conversation about what that could look like. So I want to say thank you.
Thank you. Good to meet you, Paula.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Andy, for being here. And thank you, Carol and Will, who had to leave the room earlier because he had something else. And anyone who's watching the replay of this, thank you so much. And yes, here are all the details. I think we all know each other from, well, at least we're somehow connected in LinkedIn. And yeah, I'm here for you. And I really thank you for being here. Stop sharing here. There we
Thank
go.
you so much, Paula. There's gems in here, even when I came in late. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And let's keep in touch, and I will keep on posting and delivering value and doing everything that I can to help this world become a little bit better place. So
We feel it.
I'm gonna